The car door was already open when Daniel Holt froze. His driver, Marcus, had pulled up smoothly in front of the Langham Hotel on Michigan Avenue the way he did every Thursday morning. Right at 7:15, not a minute off. Daniel had one foot on the pavement and his phone in his hand and his mind already 3 meetings ahead when he saw her. She was standing at the bus stop across the street. Not sitting. Standing because the bench was taken by 2 other people and she had clearly decided not to ask them to move. That was so perfectly her that it almost made him laugh. Except nothing about what he was seeing was funny. It was 22 degrees in Chicago that morning. The wind off the lake was the kind that doesn't just cut through you, it finds the spaces between your bones. And Nadia Holt, who had once owned 4 homes and a closet that required its own floor plan, was standing at that bus stop in a coat that was not built for this weather. A thin gray wool thing, the collar turned up uselessly against the wind, her arms crossed tight over her chest. Her whole body pulled inward the way people pull inward when they are trying to make themselves smaller against the cold. Her hair was different, shorter. She was thinner than he remembered. She had not seen him. Daniel stood with 1 foot on the pavement and 1 still in the car, and he did not move for a full 5 seconds. Marcus noticed and said nothing, because Marcus was the kind of driver who understood that some moments required silence. Then the bus came and Nadia got on it and she was gone. Daniel got back in the car. "Mr. Holt," Marcus said carefully. "Give me a minute," Daniel said. He sat in the back of that car on Michigan Avenue and stared at the empty bus stop and felt something he had spent 2 years successfully not feeling crack open in his chest like old ice. Nadia Reeves had been his wife for 9 years. They had met at a gallery opening when he was 32 and she was 28, and she had been standing in front of a painting that he had looked at for 30 seconds and dismissed, explaining to a friend in a quiet voice exactly why it was the most technically dishonest piece in the room. He had stopped walking. He had listened. He had introduced himself. She had shaken his hand and said, very pleasantly, that she didn't particularly care who he was, but she would be happy to explain the painting further if he was genuinely interested. He had been genuinely interested in the painting and in everything else about her. They were married 11 months later. The divorce had been finalized 2 years ago. No children, no ugly courtroom moments. Just 2 people who had grown in different directions until the distance between them was too wide to speak across. She had been quiet through the whole process, composed. She had taken nothing beyond what the agreement specified, and the agreement had been fair, enough to set her up comfortably for years. So why was she standing at a bus stop in a coat that wasn't warm enough in 22-degree weather? "Marcus," Daniel said, "find out what bus that was and where it stops next." Marcus did not ask why. He pulled out his phone. Daniel found her 40 minutes later at a coffee shop on North Wells Street, a small place with steamed-up windows and mismatched chairs. She was sitting alone at a table near the back with both hands wrapped around a coffee cup and a folder of papers open in front of her. She was reading, and she had that look she always got when she was concentrating hard, slightly tilted head, one finger tracing the line she was on. He walked in. The bell above the door rang. She looked up. The moment she recognized him, her whole face went through 5 different things in about 2 seconds. Surprise. Something that might have been relief gone almost immediately. Composure. A careful blankness. And underneath all of it, something tired. "Daniel," she said. "Nadia." He nodded at the empty chair across from her. "Can I sit down?" She looked at the chair, then at him. "You can." He sat. A waitress came over and he ordered a coffee he didn't need just to have something to do with his hands. "You look well," she said, and she said it the way people say things they have practiced saying. "You were at the bus stop on Michigan Avenue this morning," he said. He wasn't going to pretend he hadn't seen her. Pretending was something he had done enough of in the last years of their marriage, and he was done with it. She looked at her coffee. "Yes, it was 22 degrees. I'm aware of what temperature it was. Your coat isn't warm enough for this weather." She looked up then, and there was a flash of something sharp in her eyes. "I didn't realize you were monitoring my wardrobe." "I'm not. I just have eyes." He paused. "What happened, Nadia?" She closed the folder in front of her with a careful, deliberate motion. "That's not really your concern anymore." "Maybe not. But I'm asking anyway." She looked at him for a long moment. Outside, the wind pushed against the steamed-up windows. Someone at the counter laughed at something. The coffee shop moved around them while the two of them sat very still. "It's been a complicated 2 years," she finally said. "How complicated?" She picked up her coffee cup and set it down without drinking. "I invested badly. A friend, someone I trusted, convinced me to put a significant amount into a company that turned out to be structured on nothing. By the time I understood what was happening, most of it was gone." She said it flatly, like she was reading from a report about someone else. "I sold the condo 8 months ago to cover what I could. I've been working as a consultant, but the contracts have been inconsistent." She paused. "I'm fine. I'm managing." "Where are you living?" A beat of silence. "A studio in Pilsen. It's perfectly fine." "Are you warm enough there?" "Daniel, are you?" She pressed her lips together. "The heating has been inconsistent. The landlord is aware." He looked at her. She looked back at him with that expression she used to get when she wanted him to know that she did not need rescuing and would not accept it gracefully if he tried. "I'm not offering charity," he said, reading her perfectly after 9 years of practice. "I'm asking questions. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. Charity is when I write a check and walk away feeling good about myself. Questions are when I actually want to understand what's happening with someone I spent 9 years of my life with." Something shifted in her expression. Just slightly. The careful blankness softened at the edges. "Why were you on Michigan Avenue this morning?" she asked. "You live in the Gold Coast. Michigan Avenue isn't your route." "Thursday morning client breakfast at the Langham. I've done it for 3 years." She nodded slowly. "I take that bus to a contract job 3 days a week. A firm on Wacker. So we've probably been near each other before and didn't know it." "Probably," she said quietly. The coffees sat between them. Neither of them drank. If the story is pulling at something in you right now, hit that like button. Costs nothing and it means everything to this channel. "Tell me about the investment," he said. "The person who convinced you." She looked at him carefully. "Why?" "Because I know people. And because if someone took advantage of you, I want to know who. You don't need to fix it. Nadia." His voice was low and direct and not unkind. "Talk to me." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "His name was Gregory Faust. He was introduced to me through someone in my professional network 18 months after the divorce. He presented himself as a fund manager, had credentials that looked legitimate, references that checked out on the surface. He was convincing." She paused. "I was lonely. I was starting over. I wanted to believe something was going to work out." She said the last part like it cost her something to admit it. "How much?" Daniel asked. She looked at the table. "Most of the settlement." Daniel kept his expression steady because she would not want him to react. But something in him went cold and tight. "He's been investigated?" he said. "The SEC opened a case 4 months ago. There are 17 other victims. The process is slow." "Do you have representation?" "I have a lawyer. She's working on it." "Who?" Nadia looked up. "Daniel. I'm not taking over. I'm asking. There's still a difference." She told him the name. He recognized it. Mid-level firm, competent but not aggressive enough for what she was describing. He picked up his coffee and drank it and looked at the table and thought about what he wanted to say next and how to say it without making her feel like she was being handled. Because the one thing Nadia Reeves had never tolerated in all the years he had known her was being handled. "I have something I want to say," he said. "And I need you to let me finish before you respond." She raised an eyebrow but nodded. "I know our marriage ended. I know why it ended. I know we both played our part in that, and I'm not here to reopen any of it." He looked at her directly. "But I watched you stand at a bus stop in a coat that wasn't keeping you warm, and I know that somewhere between who you were when I met you and who you're trying to be right now, someone took advantage of you during the hardest period of your life. And I cannot sit across from you in this coffee shop and pretend that doesn't matter to me. Because it does. You matter to me, not as my ex-wife, as a person I know and respect, and if I'm being honest with myself, as someone I never fully stopped caring about." The coffee shop was warm and quiet around them. Nadia looked at him with an expression he could not fully read, which was unusual, because he had spent 9 years learning her face. "That was a long thing to say," she said finally. "I told you I needed to finish." She almost smiled. Just almost. "What are you actually proposing, Daniel?" "Practically. Let me connect you with better legal representation. Someone who will move faster on the SEC case and push harder for recovery. No cost to you, I'll handle it. Consider it a long overdue thing I should have done 4 months ago when the case opened if I had known." He paused. "And I want you to let me replace that coat." She looked at him. "The coat? It's not warm enough." "I know it's not warm enough." "Then let me replace it." She was quiet for a long time. The folder sat closed on the table between them. Outside, a bus went by and sent a shadow across the steamed window. "The coat I can handle myself," she said quietly. "But the lawyer, if you genuinely know someone who can move faster, then yes." "Okay. For that I will say yes." He nodded. "All right. But Daniel," she looked at him steadily, "I need you to understand something. I am not the same person I was during our marriage. I am not waiting to be taken care of. I got knocked down badly and I am getting back up and I am doing it myself. What happened with Gregory Faust happened because I was vulnerable at a specific moment in my life and I trusted the wrong person. That won't happen again." "I know that," he said. "I need you to actually know it, not just say it." "Nadia." He looked at her with all 9 years and 2 years and this morning and this coffee shop behind his eyes. "I have never in my life doubted your ability to take care of yourself. Not once. Not even in the worst moments of our marriage. You are the most capable person I have ever known, and watching you stand at that bus stop in the cold this morning didn't make me think you were weak. It made me think someone had been unfair to you, and I wanted to do something about that." He paused. "That's all this is." She looked at him for a long time. Then she unfolded her hands from around the coffee cup and laid them flat on the table and took a breath. "You always did know what to say," she said. "Not warmly, not coldly, truthfully. Only to you," he said. "Everyone else, I have to think about it." This time she did smile. Small and real, and nothing performed about it. They sat in that coffee shop for another hour. They talked the way people talk when they have history that is both heavy and familiar, carefully at first, then more easily, then the way they used to talk before everything got complicated, with honesty and humor and the particular comfort of two people who genuinely know each other. He called his attorney from the table, right there in front of her, and made the introduction on the spot. She watched him do it and didn't stop him. When they finally stood to leave, he held the door open and she walked through it into the cold Chicago morning. She pulled that thin coat tighter around herself and he said nothing about it because she had asked him not to. But 3 days later, a package arrived at her studio in Pilsen. A coat. Long, heavy, properly insulated, the exact kind she would have chosen for herself. No note inside. Just the coat. She stood in her small apartment and held it and looked at it for a long time. Then she put it on. It was warm. Genuinely, completely warm. The kind of warm that starts at your shoulders and moves all the way through you. She sat down on her bed and pressed her hands together and looked at the floor and let herself feel something she had been too proud and too tired and too bruised to feel for 2 years. That someone who knew her completely, who had seen her at her best and her worst and everything between, still thought she was worth showing up for. Not to rescue her, just to show up. And sometimes, when life has taken enough from you, that one thing is the thing that puts the first piece back. If the story hit you somewhere real, please like this video right now and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a story like this one. And drop a comment below. Would you have walked into that coffee shop? Or would you have driven away? Be honest. I want to hear from you. See you in the next one.